eventually. Great. All right, it looks like we are streaming live on YouTube. So thanks everyone for joining. Today is another episode of the OpenJS Foundation's cross-project council meeting. Oh, yeah, there we go. Today is the 11th of August. And yeah, I'll paste that into the doc. There's the recording. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. Add yourselves to the minutes so we can keep track. And I'm a little behind on minutes, or I should say we're a little behind on minutes. So if anybody wants to commit the meeting minutes for the last few meetings, that would be awesome. If not soon, I will try to get to it as soon as I can. Great. So should we start with some announcements?
Yes.
Yay.
I will announce some things now. One important announcement is that we have opened the nomination period for the secondary CPC director seat. We're so excited to have a lot of people who have expressed interest, but we're opening that up for formal nominations now. So if that's you, if you're interested, please either reply with your self-nomination on the thread, or you can reach out to Joe or myself, and we would be happy to facilitate you nominating someone else if that was the case. But we definitely want to get those in ideally by the end of the week, but we're going to close that on Sunday so that we can start the voting process. So check out that issue, please do that. We also have recently concluded some election for the silver and end user seats, but I'm not sure if those have been publicly announced yet, Robin?
We're hoping for those to go out this week. We're just finishing up the blog. So in the next day or two, you'll hear the news.
Great.
So, yeah.
Yes, excited about that.
So I think it's just really cool to see the community and the board growing, and that's just like really dope. There's no other way to put it. We have also the other meetings this week, including the standards working group meeting here in just a couple of hours, a code of conduct working group meeting, which has been added to the public calendar on Thursday. Joe, I think you have open office hours this week, yes?
I do, yes.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
So that's happening. And then also Friday, a meeting, ad hoc meeting to discuss the supporter program, which Sarah's leading. So if any of those conversations are interesting, please, raise your hand and attend. Yeah, those are the big pieces of news that I had for y'all this week.
Yeah, I'll share one more with Rachel's help and working with Mary from the Node.js TSC. We have put together a user feedback survey around unhandled promise rejections, and I just pasted the link to a Twitter tweet, whatever they're called. If anyone is familiar with, having their promise rejections unhandled in Node, please, take the survey or help us promote the survey by retweeting or what have you. Yeah, so it's exciting that we're trying to formalize the user feedback process. So thank you, Rachel, for helping work through that. And we'll have more in the repo for other upcoming surveys. And yeah, it's a great resource.
Awesome. I have one more announcement to make too. Our monthly Ask Me Anything is tomorrow. It's going to be on the Node.js certification. So if you do have any questions on certification, that will be a great opportunity to get those questions answered. Robin will be moderating, and then we will also have David Clements and Adrian Estrada as our panelists answering questions. So we hope to see you there.
Great. That sounds fun. Thank you. Cool. All right. So Anything else before we get into the agenda? Anything from like the board or anything that we should talk about? No? Cool. AMA happening tomorrow. Look at me, I'm even taking notes and running this meeting. Cool, so let me clear that out. So I kind of threw this on the agenda, and I guess I put it at the top, so we'll start there real quickly. This is issue 599. Emily opened this up a couple of weeks ago. This is about doing an earlier CPC meeting time. I believe that the decision was to try a oh, and I may have misspoke too here. I think the decision, I'm looking at the comments here. The decision was to try a 1300 UTC on August 18th, which I think I said 10 a.m. Eastern time, but I think it's actually 9, right? So let me edit my thing here so I don't confuse anyone. So I think we've decided to try that next week, 9 a.m. For the CPC meeting on August 18th. The question I think moving forward is how, if we are going to continue that time, how do we integrate it into our cadence of, Tuesday CPC meetings? The one thing to consider, I mean, it wouldn't be bad to just kind of alternate them, the 3 times each, every third week. The challenge is that we kind of alternate with the standards team meeting, which happens at 1800 UTC on Tuesdays every other week. And so we're kind of alternating with that. So there are a couple of ways that we could handle it. I'd be happy to hear anyone's ideas. One thought that I had is that we perhaps keep one time and then alternate the other 2. And I have 2 examples that I just pasted into the chat again. So we could do like 1300, 1600, 1800, 1600, 1300, whatever. It's probably easier if you just read it. But I'm open to other ideas. Do people have thoughts about how we want to move forward on a potential new time?
I think having 3 times adds complexity, which I think is not a huge problem. I don't know for anyone, I think, but is the goal of adding an extra time appealing to more people? I think, yeah, that's the idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for time zones that are not in the US.
I mean, I think like we can try this with 2 timings rather than having 3 timings, and rather than increasing our complexity, just to reduce the complexity here, and then check whether we have more people joining. And if it is not, then we can fall back to our current scenario, or else then add the 3rd timing if it's needed.
So I wanted to ask, is the goal to have more equity among like time zones, or is the goal that there's a list of people and we want to maximize how many of that list can attend? Because those are subtly different.
Yeah, I think it's the former, that we're just hoping that it would be more accommodating to folks, but I don't know if there's specific people that we are trying to accommodate.
I think the way we can manage that is just by, if we get no people from European or Asian time zones in, the first 2 or 3 meetings like that, we kind of know that we're not actually doing what we're setting out to do, and we should at that point probably consider reverting or figuring out different ways we can achieve that goal.
Yeah, that was the intention of my question, is saying like what are the metrics to decide if this is a change we want, or if we should keep it or alter it further, or revert it. So
right on.
Whatever those are is fine. Maybe we just need to be clear about that, I think.
The TSC approach, which I think relates, was to actually, we had a spreadsheet where everybody who was on the TSC filled in and said, here's the times that are good for me. And that optimized for the group who were members. But that is, like you said, is different from saying, let's try and make it fairer, which may encourage new members from other time zones, right?
Yeah, I think the nice thing too is that we meet weekly, so hopefully we can kind of get a view into this a little faster than maybe other, bi-weekly meetings. Might take longer.
I feel that we should have based on the times that we should have 2 meetings at the same time, back-to-back weeks, and then try the other time back-to-back weeks, like the other alternative that we have, and then do a comparison. Just because like having one meeting at one time and then the next week having another time could lead to potential members not getting confused or being like, oh, we are left out. We're just so excited about joining this, but now I guess they changed it, kind of thing. Instead, like we have a more like an experiment thing, and then we can take the data and say, okay, which time works better for us. I think having 2 times is better because we can do it. It's more controlled. 3 times just makes it a lot more difficult and a longer process to get the potential of the time that we want.
Actually, I think that, sorry. I was just gonna say, I agree. 2 time zones is like 2 contrasting times makes a lot more sense. And I agree that 3 might mean we lose more people.
Just to make sure that it gets mentioned, one possibility is that we randomize things and we generate randomly the events in the calendar. And as long as they're in the calendar, like a couple of weeks ahead, that's going to be fine, at least for me. But on the other hand, that's probably not an opinion that we want to go with.
I was going to say the one piece of experience I have from trying to manage this a few different ways is it better not be manual or require somebody to do something. Like there's been cases where like we've alternated between times and then every 3rd time it conflicts with some other meeting. So we said, okay, but yeah, we can figure that out ahead. We never figure it out ahead of time. We always conflict. So whatever it has to be, it needs to be something that's like, even the randomization sounds great, but only if you've got a program that's going to do that for you, as opposed to requiring somebody to go and do it every 3 weeks or something.
Ooh, here's another one. How about we meet every 170 hours? So there's 168 hours in a week. So it goes ahead 2 hours every single week. Please, let's not. But
yeah.
My recommendation is that I don't think we can make a decision now because we're going to get input next week at least based on what happens then, and then take it forward from there.
Can we make sure that people are aware of this change? People that are not on these calls. That's my biggest concern, because if we want to test something, but then people that would be interested haven't heard about it, then they won't come, and then we'll be able to say, well, they didn't come. So, and we're not making progress in terms of actually gathering meaningful data.
Yeah, I agree. We should promote the heck out of it. We have a week.
We'll do that for sure. That's a good point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, interesting. I think that the 2 times is good, better than 3. And I know that some folks complain about the noon time, this time slot, although we do have great turnout right now. So I don't know. I guess we'll just do next week at this earlier time. And I'm not sure what we're doing beyond that. So I rather than spending a lot of time on this, perhaps we should take it to the issue. And, we have a couple of weeks, a week at a minimum to figure out what we do beyond next week.
Yeah, I think your comment on 12 is it will be the one you get the most people in, but that doesn't necessarily, there'll be a few people. It also excludes some people, right? Regularly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think Dylan was saying, and I'm not sure if they made the call because he was saying that noon is always a hard time for him. But we have 19 on the call right now, which is great. All right, so let's take it to the issue and figure out what we do beyond next week. But know that next week we are doing this earlier time slot, and please help promote it. Message people, or we'll tweet about it or whatever, and see if we can get some folks on that.
Whoever can actually move the calendar entry, if they could do that, that would be good.
Yeah, Brian said he can move it in the issue. So
okay.
And Robin and Rachel have full access as well. All right, cool. So yeah, let's update the calendar and spread the word. Cool. Moving on. The next item on the agenda here is issue 607. Sarah opened this 8 days ago for next steps for the supporter program. I know we have something on Friday to talk about this. Is there anything more at the moment, Sarah, to share about this?
Nope, that's it. Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern. If you are interested in joining, send me your email. I'll add you to the calendar invite.
Great. All right, cool. Moving on, the next item here is the director election process, which Michael opened up 2 weeks ago. I think we have a plan in place, which is captured in the pull request 609 that Chris opened. This is based on some of the discussion that we had had. I don't see any objections here. So the gist is that I guess what we're calling the secondary CPC director seat is the nominations are open for it now. They're open yesterday. They'll be open for a week. Next week, we will start the voting. If you are interested in this seat, please comment on the issue that Jory raised this morning, which I will find that is issue 616. And so we will have the election open for a week next week. And this is the secondary seat. And so the folks who are eligible for this seat are anyone who is an active OpenJS collaborator, which is defined in our governance, I believe. And I have more, to the link and everything in this comment. So if you are eligible and interested, please nominate in that issue. Here's the direct link to the charter that talks about eligibility. The CPC voting members will vote on the nominations as described in the charter as well. So yeah, everything's in place. Get your nominations in. Any comments, questions, want to talk about this? No, did I explain it that well?
So well.
Great. Sometimes I feel like I'm babbling, but I guess if there are no questions, then that's good.
Is this a new position? Sorry, Jerry.
No, this is for more context, this is the position that Michael Dawson is currently holding for the first year, and it's been a little bit longer than a year because we've been kind of working through the stuff, but the first year it was provided to the Node.js project as we worked through the merger and everything. And in the charter previously, it was laid out that beyond the first year, the CPC would figure out how to allocate the seat and who would be eligible. And we decided, as I think expected, that it would be open up to any of the projects and their communities, assuming that you are an active OpenJS collaborator. Which is, I think, basically 90 days active collaboration in the project or 30 days active in the OpenJS Foundation and CPC. And so, yeah, it was decided that moving forward, it would not be node specific. It would be more community specific for the foundation. Does that make sense?
Yep, that's all I want to know.
Great, great. Cool. All right, well, if there are no other comments or questions, if you're interested, please jump in there and nominate. If you have someone you want to nominate, email Jory or me, and we'll kind of work through that process. But otherwise, self-nominate in the issue itself. Thanks. Cool. Moving on, the next item is issue 592. This is develop annual review process for projects. Emily opened this up about 23 days ago. There has been some conversation here. I know Chris Hiller, who I think is on the call, also opened up an issue around growth project goal setting plans, and another issue opened up for formalized project champion and mentor role. also by Chris. So does anybody want to comment on the current state of this and how we're moving forward? Emily, Chris.
Anyone? Yeah, I think the next thing we need to figure out is what is the next thing that should be happening. The next action on this one hasn't been very clear. The points that Chris raises are good regarding the fact that this really needs to be a two-way thing in the full growth projects. We have promised more resources, more support, and this has not necessarily been as clearly been provided so far. So we need to figure out on both sides of what is the next step, but what is the review really here about?
I think in at least one of those issues, I can't remember which one, essentially, I think one of the next steps is we need some volunteers who want to essentially work to define the role of a project mentor or champion. And from there, we'll probably want actual mentors. So we would need people to volunteer for that. But the first step in my mind is, okay, we need to get a little group together, whoever's interested, and figure out what a project mentor should be doing for a project and how they should be working. But that's just my feeling. So
I wonder if this is an, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Sarah.
Thanks. I wonder if this is an opportunity. So I think what I've heard in these meetings and what I've read back and forth is kind of, there's a shared ownership here that needs to happen. I think on one hand, there's clear requests from the CPC and clear, on the other hand, clear requests from the projects themselves for mentorship. And there's definitely a motivator on both sides. I wonder if there's an opportunity here to get some folks together and come up with a, I think here's what I've seen is kind of everyone thinks this is important, but I think what would be a good next step, and as is mentioned with the mentors, is ownership. So I'm happy to help with this. I think this is really interesting. So if anyone else wants to, but I don't have the perspective of a project. So I think getting a few people together would be helpful.
I don't want to volunteer anyone, although that's kind of the statement you say right before you volunteer someone. But looking at the CPC member list, Chris and Toby are the growth and at-large representatives. Would you two like to work with Sarah to at least just be behind the steering wheel, and we'll, others will get involved and help it to take shape. But I think we need some folks to drive it to some extent.
Yeah, I mean, I think that makes sense. Both Chris and I were on that issue talking about it, and I think we both have points of view about it. So yeah, sure, absolutely. I mean, I'm not going to volunteer Chris, but I'll volunteer myself happily. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I can work on that. Yeah, just coming up with. I imagine that at some point we would just like send a PR with a new document that outlines the role, and past that, I'd also be interested in mentoring or championing other projects. Not my own project, but a different project. So yeah,
that'd be great.
It'd be also.
Go ahead.
It'd be also be interesting to see if there's anything like experience we can get from the other Linux Foundation projects in terms of what do they do on this front? Do they already have like those rules defined or processes? So
also Apache has a lot on this.
Yeah, and as Sarah pasted there, Chaos has some of it there. I think it's been mentioned in the issue as well.
And both the mentorship and both the mentorship process and the setting growth goals together, or are we splitting them up?
I mean,
I guess
I
that group
think,
will find out.
yeah. I mean, my first instinct is to say, well, let's split them up, but well, yeah, I think we'll find out.
I opened this Pandora's box. It's probably fair that I volunteer for this as well.
If you're taking down names, I would participate in this process for sure. And I think, like it's been mentioned, it should be a 360 review all around. I know it's kind of a bigger project to be taking on, so maybe that's, you know, we work through the different aspects of that. But I think
I'll
there's
help
great
as well. Yeah, I raise my hand. I'll help, and I'll also look for the LF, any best practices there beyond chaos. Okay.
And I also think it's maybe been mentioned in one of the issues, but I think that utilizing, you know, maybe transforming the project onboarding repo into more of a, you know, ongoing thing, or maybe we have a new repo, but that makes sense to kind of keep it in one place.
Absolutely, yeah, and leveraging the experience we've had from the onboarding process too. We had mentors there. So relying on that as a basis seems also good. What are the next steps? Like, does I mean, I'm happy to organize a meeting if that's what you want to do.
Good, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll do that.
That seems fair, yeah.
And yeah, I don't know if we can catalog somewhere the different things that have been brought up and ideas.
Can we make a decision on the suggestion on indeed renaming the project onboarding repo to be something like project status, and to have that be then somewhere that this subcommittee can start doing stuff?
I'm in favor of that. You know, naming is an open question, but I agree with you.
I mean, I don't see any reason not to.
Yep.
Can we have folks that are working on this every day, like Jory, comment before making such a decision?
Nope, we can't. Jory, you still on?
I am. I don't know if so, I mean, what do you want me to comment on?
Yeah, is this just the repo part or beyond that?
Yeah.
So my ask was specifically like Emily was suggesting we rename the onboarding repo to be for sort of like broader project following, and to have like more projects in there. And my question was, given that you're the person looking at this on a regular basis, it probably was Brian, are you okay with that before I mean, that was my question.
Yeah, I mean, I'm okay with the repository being something that is like more flexibly / longer used. I think that's I'm +1 and supportive of this group as well.
Great. Cool. All right, great. So we can move forward on that. And that's awesome. Thank you. Moving on. Next up is the pull request 547. Michael, this is the governance changes for Collaboration Network.
Yeah, when in the last board meeting, there'd been an ask to look at tightening the language around the allowable licenses. And I think I'd had a discussion back and forth with Brian. I don't know if he's had a chance to PR those in yet, but that was the thing we needed to do, and then we could ask for a vote.
Okay.
I haven't. I was out last week, and let me see.
I was out too, so maybe hopefully Brian and I can close on that this week.
Great. Just as a quick aside, there are a couple of things in the project board for bringing to the board.
Okay. I will take a look at that later today. And are they all like they're ones that haven't been taken to the board yet?
I just moved a couple that were merged over to the done column, but basically proposed charter changes column is drop charter mention of Commons JS. Then the one that we just talked about, collaboration network governance, and then move collaboration network proposal to stage 3.
Okay, so yeah, I'll look at them, and if we haven't sent something, we'll, like that with that Common JS one, I don't remember us doing that. So anyway, if we haven't, we'll start the vote.
Great. Yeah, and I don't know if that's just an FYI or what exactly. Look at it. Cool. Moving on. The next item is add foundation-wide copyright guidance. This is pull request 414, and then I don't know if Toby added this.
Yes, I actually did the work.
Okay, great. Let me drop this into the chat for folks, and go ahead, Toby.
Yeah, so actually, Brian added the standard footer to the repository where we have all of the art, the logos and everything. So it made it really easier to have a much more succinct and shorter sort of like guidance for the copyright. And so I wrote that. It's way shorter than what we had before, and I'm not really sure how to best share it with you because I don't want to overwrite the work that Brian did. Essentially, it's the work that Brian did, but like was lots of stuff removed. So my question essentially was, should I open a new pull request for it? Do you just want to have a look at the document like this? I don't really know what the best solution is.
Hey, sorry, I'm back now. My connection dropped, Toby. Came in the middle of that, but I think a new PR makes sense. Let's just close the existing one and start fresh.
Yeah.
That works for me if that works for you.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah. All right. Awesome. I'll just do that and I'll ship that later today.
Great. Yeah, if you could reference the previous one too.
I will, absolutely. Yeah, sure.
Excellent. Cool. Thank you, Toby. That's fantastic.
Thank you for your patience.
Sure thing. Great. So next up, and I think it's the final item here on the agenda, is responsible security disclosures. This is all related to the proposal to move the security reporting proposal to stage 3, which is pull request 602, which I guess this should also be on the board. Did I mention that? Is it already on the board?
I think we've said we don't need this. This doesn't require board approval.
Okay.
Because I don't think it's changing our charter or anything like that, unless I'm remembering incorrectly.
I didn't know if the proposal staging process, if I'm looking now.
The only thing I think is there was a few, I mean, there needs to be a few changes still in terms of like there's a PR open, but there's comments from myself and Mike Samuel in terms of, how it's rolled out that need to be addressed before we could land it.
Great.
My comments were basically just related to scoping.
Yeah, and in mine, it was mostly around like in stage 3, as opposed to just, when we move from stage 1 to 2, we kind of renamed the stages. In this case, we actually have to move the files into the main, into the main CPC repo, as well as, possibly add some links to them in other places.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what needs to be still done.
Great. Cool. So almost there. And yeah, a board approval is not required, only when it's needed. Great. So that is the end of our agenda items. I'm trying to just look really quickly to see if there are any other things in here that should be touched on before we kind of call it a wrap here. I don't think so. I think we're good. Anything anybody else wants to discuss before we drop into a private session to kind of wrap things up? No? All right, cool. I will stop the live stream and I'll ask folks who are not CPC members or foundation staff to drop off. And I thank everyone. Cheers.